I believed in love the way some people believe in God. With my whole heart. With blind faith. With everything I had. My name is Sophia. I'm 28 now. But this story starts when I was 23. Fresh out of college. Full of dreams. Full of hope. I met Jake at a coffee shop. He was reading a book about philosophy. I was grading papers for my teaching job. Our eyes met over steaming cups of coffee. He smiled. I melted. What are you reading? I asked. Something about the meaning of life, he said with a laugh. Pretty heavy for a Tuesday morning. We talked for 3 hours. The coffee shop closed around us. We barely noticed. Jake was different from other guys I dated. He listened when I spoke. He asked real questions. He seemed to care about my dreams, my fears, my thoughts about everything and nothing. I've never met anyone like you, he told me on our 3rd date. I felt the same way. We fell in love fast. The kind of love that feels like coming home. Like finding the missing piece of yourself you didn't know was gone. Within 6 months, we moved in together. A small apartment with creaky floors and windows that stuck. But it was ours. Our first real home as a couple. I was loyal from day one. Not because someone told me to be. Not because it was expected. Because loyalty felt natural with Jake. Like breathing. Like something I was born to do. When other guys flirted with me at work, I shut it down immediately. I have a boyfriend, I'd say with pride. When friends invited me to girls' nights at clubs, I'd suggest dinner instead. I wanted to be home with Jake. I wanted to build our life together. You're so devoted, my friend Emma said one day. It's sweet. But there was something in her voice. A warning, maybe. Or pity. I ignored it. I was happy. We were happy. That's all that mattered. The first crack appeared after our first year together. Small things at first. Jake started working late more often. He'd come home tired. Distant. When I'd ask about his day, he'd give short answers. How was work? Fine. What did you do for lunch? Nothing special. I told myself it was normal. Relationships have ups and downs. Everyone said so. The honeymoon phase doesn't last forever. But then I found the first text. I wasn't snooping. His phone buzzed while he was in the shower. The screen lit up. A message from someone named Melissa. Thanks for lunch today. Can't wait to see you again. My stomach dropped. Jake had told me he ate lunch alone. At his desk. Working. When he came out of the shower, I was holding his phone. Who's Melissa? I asked. He froze. Just for a second. But I saw it. A coworker, he said. We grabbed lunch. It was nothing. You said you ate at your desk. I forgot. It was just a quick bite. Why are you going through my phone? The conversation turned into our first real fight. I felt guilty for looking at his phone. He felt attacked for having lunch with a coworker. We both apologized. We made up. We promised to communicate better. But something had changed. A seed of doubt had been planted. I started paying more attention, noticing things I'd missed before. How he guarded his phone. How he'd step outside to take certain calls. How he seemed to have more work events than ever before. I'm probably just being paranoid, I told Emma over coffee. Trust your gut, she said. It's usually right. But I didn't want to trust my gut. I wanted to trust Jake. I'd built my whole world around him. Around us. Around the future we'd planned together. So I stayed loyal. I pushed down my doubts. I chose to believe his explanations. I chose love over suspicion, even when the signs became harder to ignore. Month by month, Jake became more distant. He stopped saying, "I love you" first. He stopped planning date nights. He stopped asking about my day. I tried harder. I cooked his favorite meals. I planned romantic evenings. I bought tickets to concerts he'd mentioned wanting to see. "You don't have to do all this," he'd say. But I did. I felt like I had to, like our relationship was a plant that would die without constant watering. The worst part wasn't Jake's distance. It was how it made me question myself. Was I too needy? Too clingy? Was I imagining problems that weren't there? I started walking on eggshells, monitoring my own behavior, trying to be the perfect girlfriend, the one he'd want to stay with. I stopped hanging out with friends as much. I didn't want Jake to feel like I was choosing them over him. I stopped pursuing hobbies he didn't share. I wanted all my free time to be available for us. My world got smaller and smaller. Jake was at the center. Everything else orbited around him. "You seem different," my mom said during one of our phone calls. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I lied. "Just busy." But I wasn't fine. I was exhausted from being loyal to someone who seemed to be drifting away, from fighting for a relationship that felt one-sided. The breaking point came at his company Christmas party. I'd bought a new dress, spent hours getting ready. I was excited to meet his co-workers, to be part of his world outside our apartment. But Jake seemed uncomfortable all night. He introduced me to some people, ignored others. When a pretty blonde woman approached us, he tensed up. "Jake," she said with a bright smile. "I've been looking for you." This was Melissa. I knew without being told. She was beautiful, confident. She had this energy that filled the room. I felt small standing next to her. "Melissa, this is Sophia," Jake said. "My girlfriend." But the way he said girlfriend sounded almost apologetic, like he was explaining away an embarrassment. Melissa's smile faltered for just a moment. Then she recovered. "Oh, I didn't know you had a girlfriend. Jake never mentioned you." The words hit like a punch to the gut. We'd been together for almost 2 years, and he'd never mentioned me to his coworker who he had lunch with regularly. The rest of the party was a blur. I smiled when I was supposed to, made small talk when people approached. But inside, I was breaking apart. On the drive home, I finally asked the question I'd been avoiding. "Are you having an affair?" Jake's hands tightened on the steering wheel. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. "No," he said finally. "I'm not having an affair." But something in his voice told me he wasn't telling the whole truth. The full truth came out 3 weeks later. Not because Jake confessed, but because Melissa called me. I was at home grading papers when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello. Is this Sophia? Jake's girlfriend?" "Yes. Who is this?" "This is Melissa. From Jake's work. We need to talk." My blood turned to ice. We met at a coffee shop across town. The same coffee shop where Jake and I had first met. The irony wasn't lost on me. Melissa looked as nervous as I felt. She ordered a tea she didn't drink. I stared at coffee that grew cold. "I didn't know about you," she said without preamble. "Not really. Jake told me he had an ex-girlfriend who was having trouble moving on. Someone who was obsessed with him. He said you were unstable." Each word was a knife to my heart. "He said you were together for a few months last year. That you broke up but you kept showing up at his work, calling him. That he felt bad for you but didn't know how to make you stop." I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. We've been dating for 8 months, Melissa continued. He told me he was single, free to be with me. We've been talking about moving in together. 8 months. Jake and I had been having problems for about 8 months. I found out the truth yesterday, Melissa said. I went to his apartment to surprise him. I used the key he gave me, and there were pictures of you two everywhere. Recent pictures. I confronted him and he admitted everything. She pulled out her phone, showed me text messages between her and Jake, messages that proved they were in a real relationship, not just friends grabbing lunch, messages where Jake called her beautiful, where he said he couldn't wait to build a life with her, where he complained about his crazy ex who wouldn't leave him alone. That crazy ex was me, the woman who'd been loyal to him for 2 years, who'd lived with him, who'd planned a future with him. I'm sorry, Melissa said. I thought you should know. I broke up with him. I don't date liars. After she left, I sat in that coffee shop for hours. People came and went around me. Life continued. But I felt frozen in time. Everything I'd believed about my relationship was a lie. Not just the last 8 months. Maybe all of it. How long had Jake been lying to me? How many other women had there been? How many times had he called me crazy to explain away my existence? I drove home in a daze. Jake was there, watching TV like nothing had happened. Hey babe, he said without looking up. How was your day? For a moment, I almost didn't say anything. Almost pretended I didn't know. Almost continued living the lie because it was easier than facing the truth. But I couldn't. I deserved better than that. I met Melissa today, I said. Jake's face went white. He muted the TV. Finally looked at me. Sophia, I can explain. No, I said. You can't. There's no explanation for this. You've been living a double life. You've been lying to me for months, making me feel crazy for noticing something was wrong. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, he said. I never meant for it to go so far. Which part? The affair or the lies about me being your unstable ex? Jake had no answer for that. I loved you, I continued. I was completely loyal to you. I turned down other guys. I gave up friendships. I made you the center of my world. And you repaid that by making me the villain in your story. I do love you, Jake said. I love you both. I was confused. I didn't know what to do. You don't get to love us both. That's not how loyalty works. That's not how love works. That night, I packed everything I could fit in my car. I left Jake sitting on our couch, staring at the blank TV screen. I never went back. The next few months were the hardest of my life. I moved in with Emma temporarily, slept on her couch, cried more tears than I thought possible. But slowly, I started to rebuild. I had to learn who I was without Jake, without being someone's girlfriend, without centering my entire identity around a relationship. It was terrifying and liberating at the same time. I started hanging out with friends again. I picked up hobbies I'd abandoned. I remembered what it felt like to make decisions based on what I wanted, not what would make someone else happy. I went to therapy. Dr. Martinez helped me understand that loyalty in a relationship should be mutual. That giving everything to someone who gives nothing back isn't love, it's self-destruction. You were loyal, she said during one session. But you were loyal to the wrong person. And more importantly, you weren't loyal to yourself. That hit hard. Because it was true. I'd been so focused on being the perfect girlfriend that I'd ignored my own needs, my own instincts, my own worth. I'd thought loyalty meant accepting anything, forgiving everything, never questioning, never demanding better. But real loyalty, the kind worth giving, has to be earned. And it has to be mutual. Jake tried to contact me several times. Texts apologizing, emails explaining, flowers delivered to Emma's apartment. I didn't respond to any of it, not out of anger, though I was angry, but because I finally understood something important. I owed him nothing, not forgiveness, not closure, not another chance to lie to me. I owed myself everything I'd given him. Loyalty, love, devotion, the benefit of the doubt. After 6 months, I found my own apartment. Small but bright. Windows that actually opened. A space that was entirely mine. I painted the walls yellow. Jake had always said he hated yellow. Said it was too cheerful. Too much. I loved how it looked. It's been 3 years since I left Jake. 3 years since I learned that loyalty without boundaries is just another word for being used. I'm in a new relationship now. With David. He's nothing like Jake. He's honest about his feelings. Introduces me to everyone. Includes me in his life instead of hiding me from it. But more importantly, I'm different. I've learned to be loyal to myself first. To trust my instincts. To recognize red flags instead of explaining them away. I've learned that real love doesn't require you to shrink yourself. Real love doesn't make you question your sanity. Real love doesn't ask you to be loyal while offering betrayal in return. Sometimes people ask if I regret being so loyal to Jake. If I wish I'd been more suspicious earlier. More guarded. More prepared for heartbreak. The answer is no. My loyalty wasn't the problem. Jake's dishonesty was the problem. I don't regret loving fully. I don't regret giving my whole heart. I don't regret believing in the power of commitment and faithfulness. What I regret is not extending that same loyalty to myself. I regret ignoring my gut when it told me something was wrong. I regret making myself smaller to avoid conflict. I regret accepting breadcrumbs when I deserved the whole meal. But I don't regret being loyal. Because loyalty is beautiful. Commitment is powerful. Faith in love is worth having. The key is making sure you give these gifts to someone who deserves them. Someone who values them. Someone who returns them. If you've ever felt like me, if you've ever loved someone who didn't love you back the same way, you're not alone. Your loyalty matters. Your heart matters. Your love matters. But so do you. Don't shrink yourself to fit into someone else's life. Don't ignore red flags because you want to believe in love. Don't give loyalty to someone who repays it with lies. You deserve someone who brags about you to their coworkers. Someone who includes you in their world. Someone whose loyalty matches your own. You deserve someone who sees your faithfulness as the gift it is, not as something to take advantage of. And while you're looking for that person, or building a life with them, remember to be loyal to yourself first. Trust your instincts. Honor your worth. Demand the love you give. Because you, with all your capacity for devotion and faithfulness and hope, are worth nothing less than everything you've been giving to others. If you've been loyal in love and it broke your heart, that doesn't mean you loved wrong. It means you loved someone who wasn't worthy of what you offered. Keep loving. Keep believing. Keep being loyal. Just make sure the next person deserves it. And make sure you include yourself in that loyalty. You're not alone. Your heart is not broken forever. And your story isn't over. I promise.